So here are all of my encouragements for you all to make terrible decisions as I am the GM.
Ash has a crossbow bolt in her side, 0 dots in skirmish, and 0 dots in wreck. And I'm so excited to see this get even worse. So that's one vote for escalation.
Skelly has 3 guns and all the ammo. 3
Crossroads
guns.
has no guns, but Crossroads is a gun powered by ghosts.
Have we established that your guns are special to you? I feel like we're establishing that your guns are special to you.
Before this crew, they were my only friends.
You've known us for 5 days. You've known those guns a lot longer.
These are my babies.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Rowan was starting to do this, and then he realizes to harvest. This doesn't help. Like, don't do that.
This is not.
No.
This is
Like,
not.
don't do
this.
this.
Like,
Yeah.
doing this to an executioner.
Yeah, that's not what you want.
Like this, like.
We call that the go sign, you know? Like, yeah.
Oh man.
This theme's great. I will do a fortune roll. Notes. No thoughts. Head empty. 1! I rolled a 1!
Yep. Right. Can you hear me? For a moment, it wasn't doing the thing, and I got very upset, but I hope that you can hear me now. Hi, everyone. It is me again, Brandon O'Brien, your lovely GM this evening, for yet another session of Blades in the Dark, the Case of the Cindered Seal, our Speculate, co-stream on this channel. Twitch.tv/ArvanElron. Thank you so very much for joining us this evening. It is the first Sunday of June. It is the 6th of June, if I'm not mistaken. I'm really glad to be able to share this stream with you this evening. I love that so many of you love that trailer, because that trailer is the best, and I'm so glad that we have it. So yes, we are about to get into similar shenanigans this evening. But as always, a reminder that your support of this channel helps us to create content like this. So if you type !our things in the chat, you will find a list of all of the ways in which you can support this channel, which not only includes viewing this Twitch channel and supporting and spending any of your channel points if you have any available to the community boost if possible. So even if we don't get to boost this individual stream, we will hopefully get to boost a stream in the future, which would be really rad. But also !ArvTube, which will give you access to the YouTube channel, where this stream and all of the other streams that are on this channel will be hosted for posterity if you ever want to rewatch our shenanigans. !ArvTreon gives you access to the Patreon, where you can continue support of this channel financially and help us raise the production values of the streams that we have live, which I should also mention, SpeculateSF.com and the Speculate Patreon, patreon.com/SpeculateSF, which will also give you the ability to financially support the work that Speculate does, so we can make more actual play content, both visually and orally, for you to consume, which would be really cool. ArvanElron.com, where you will find even more information about the content that we make here on this channel, and will also give you, if you type !ArvShop, will give you access to the shop, where you can buy some of the neat things that show your support for the content that is made on this channel, which is really neat. Also worth noting, !BLM will give you access to a number of resources that you can use to continue being a part of the work that we encourage here on this channel to assert and affirm Black lives in the US and everywhere in the world, which will give you access to information that you can read up on the movement, find ways to support the organizations that do work within the movement, and more. And exclamation point help now will give you access to WHO resources on mental health. If you know someone who is particularly struggling, especially as this year's lockdown stipulations have made some of the personal self-care work that we do even a little bit harder. I can say for myself personally that has been an issue over the last few weeks, which is particularly important. So if you know anyone, or if you yourself personally are struggling with mental health issues, those resources are available, and we definitely recommend that you take the opportunity to look at those resources. Without further ado, though, I'm going to join my friends, who I'm sure are having a very radical conversation about something that I shouldn't suddenly
like-
barge in and interrupt. But I'm sure they were like solving some immediate social issue that I have just suddenly interrupted, and we will never find that solution ever again, which is unfortunate. As I now switch us over here, where you can see all of these lovely people who are about to play this game and get into shenanigans. So I will ask each of you to please introduce yourselves by please telling all of the lovely people in chat who you are, what you do, and who you will be playing this evening. Starting with Mike.
Hey everybody, I'm Michael R. Underwood. I go by Mike. He, him pronouns for me. I'm an author, podcaster, and publishing person at large. I co-host Speculate with Brandon and Greg. And in that, I GM the Rebel Crown series, Splendor and Shadow, which we've been running for a few months now, and it's very fun. Y'all should check it out on YouTube at Arv's YouTube at youtube.com/ArvinEleron if you have not already. I have the Genrenauts Season 1 collection is right now in the indie bundle for Palestinian aid over at itch.io. And this is an astonishingly great deal. For $5 or more, you can get a very cool game by a Palestinian designer that we're spotlighting in the bundle. I'm just a participant. I'm saying we in the most broad sense. And then you get like 1,000 other things, including Genrenauts. So there's a ton of video games and tabletop games, and there's albums, and there's game assets and other really cool stuff. So y'all should check that out. I'll try to get the direct link into the chat if someone hasn't already done so. I am playing Ring Dalmore, who is a Akarosi spider, kind of the mastermindy type, who has strong ties to the Porters, who we have been hanging out with in recent episodes. That's me. Ring is they, them, sorry.
Thank you so very much. And I think I found the thing, so I am putting the thing in the chat so people can see it, because I think that's rad. Next, Jeoi.
Hello, I am Jeoi Gawain, pronouns he, they. I am a game and fiction writer. Today I will be playing, as I always play, Crossroads, an ex-whisper now Hull who is no longer made of meat, but tells everyone but strange friends that it is indeed made of meat for its own safety. Crossroads pronouns are its.
Next, Iori.
Iori Kusano, Clarion West class of 2017. Fiction in Apex, reviews in Strange Horizons. I play Of the Flame the Ash, who is our Severosi Lurk, and who is still recovering from that crossbow bolt.
And last but not least, Valerie.
Hello, I am Valerie Valdes. I am a writer, author of Chilling Effect and Prime Deceptions and the forthcoming Fault Tolerance, third in the trilogy, space opera that pairs extremely well with Mike's books, so check them all out. I am playing, as always, Skelly, the team hound, who has lately only been hounding small children trying to run in fear from her.
You did get to shoot some jerks.
I definitely
a while
did get
ago,
to shoot
yes.
some jerks.
I mean, they deserved it, so yes.
It was technically earlier today.
Yes, earlier in the longest day of this session.
We're not quite at the point where we're playing a season of 24, but we're not close.
Yeah, you are somewhere. Yeah, you are roughly in that area where 2 hours in game are roughly like an hour and a half in world out of nowhere. But yes.
And thankfully, we already did the torture episode, so that's done.
Noted. So, um, where we left off in our last session of the case of the Cindered Seal, you had escaped being ambushed by assailants unknown in the snow, and found your way to Dern's hideout to finally just chill out and celebrate Porter's Day. Which has been somewhat complicated because Skelly has been having complicated feelings about both food and the children. Ring has just ended up essentially being a parent in this moment, making sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible during the festivities. Melvir is here and is not having a good time about it. Crossroads just had an out of body experience involving another hull.
The worst experience of my 2-week long life, I will say.
Ash is still terribly injured, and in the business of attempting to learn more information, try to put the information that they already have together in a way that will give them an ultimate goal, in particular about how to deal with Aldo Booker. A porter in the building has just revealed that maybe they might know more about the situation than they let on the first time. And that's going to be worth trying to discover more about. But before we do that, when we left off the last session, after everybody did some XP, some off camera, some, if I recall correctly, on stream, we discovered that you have enough XP for a crew advancement. But you hadn't discussed what it would be yet. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to essentially to talk about amongst yourselves very briefly to see if you can come to a consensus about what that might be, because perhaps it might be useful sometime later this session. So yes. Do you have anything in mind so far?
I am a
So
fool who
I
did not have the
see.
crew sheet up.
So I see that we did write a note on the sheet that said, maybe we should lock in the irregulars as a cohort or something else.
Yeah, so mechanically I'd see that as a small chunk of the porters are doing stuff directly for our crew. And I know in a different game, in a Forge in the Dark game, one of the downsides, so a cohort can have the flaw unreliable. The cohort isn't always available due to other obligations. So that could be some of the porters sometimes have to go do other things, and therefore that cohort is unreliable. But that's just one option. There's crew moves from other crew types. We can take quality upgrades to have better weapons or tools or something. Other layer upgrades, like we could have a carriage or a boat. We discover that the grave cave has like water access and a rowboat or something.
I mean, that would
Looks
be
like
valuable because you are at the docks, so...
Underground pathways seems to be one of the next layer upgrade options.
I
Am
do
That makes
like
a lot
the
of
idea
sense
of an
for the grave
underwater
cave.
tunnel.
It makes a lot of sense for the grave cave to have that kind of Phantom of the Opera setup.
Yeah?
I will say that what I like about going with that option, because I also definitely like having the porters or some group of them as a cohort. I think that's a great option. But if we go with the layer option, then if we go underground pathways, that can lead us to a lot of other cool stuff, such as Defiant Citizens, which is a large gang who will fight for us. Duskfall's Most Wanted, which is +2 rep on scores against the law, which seems to keep happening to us. Or Compromising Material, which is +1 die roll to command a rival. And so given the way that we may be proceeding forward, I feel like any of those options would end up being cool.
Yeah. I am in agreement on all of these things.
Yeah, I'm going through.
Personally, I like underground pathways just because it lets all of us be sneaky in ways that above ground would be very difficult for us to be sneaky.
I'm
Mainly
also
one of us
going to
being a
throw a
gigantic
vote.
machine.
I'm also going to throw a vote towards underground pathways because it's winter, there's snow.
Oh
It
yeah,
would be
I
nice
forgot
to
about
have
the
this
snow.
guaranteed way to get around.
Yeah.
Or semi-guaranteed. There's probably a tunnel cave in somewhere, but
Me putting this ability in me putting that that layer upgrade in the sheet, and me discovering what happens during the winter in Dustfall happened totally separately, and you just essentially next leveled me, and I'm actually very proud. If you
It's
did
immersion game
get
design.
underground pathways, it would make it incredibly easier for you to get around during winter in ways that would literally sabotage a handful of plants that I have had. So, I'm just letting you know.
Well, then now we have to do it, right? No, is that not just is that not the compact between player and
You would
GM?
imagine, right? I just gave you that for free.
Yeah, because I don't remember if in Blades, as written, you can use crew advances to take layer upgrades, but the layer upgrades here also feel a bit distinct from the one in Core Blades, where in Core Blades, if I remember correctly, anytime you take a claim, you are literally taking it from someone else. And I don't know that in this case, we would be taking Duskull's Most Wanted or Defiant Citizens from someone else. So maybe that's different for us here.
We could argue, depending on the trajectory of this, there could be a very specific person we're taking something from. So,
Aldo Booker. Crossroads does not want him to have that body because it stressed them out a lot.
Or like, were there other people working with Runa that don't know about us?
I hate this idea. Mike,
also
why would you say
Find out
that?
soon.
It is also worth noting on a narrative level that being fugitives, it will always stand to reason that whenever a claim operates in this way, you're taking it from someone who has not noticed you yet. So you don't even have to care about who that person is.
Yes, we do.
You just see that a thing is available and you discover, hey, let's just take advantage of this while we need it.
No, if we're taking a thing from someone and we don't know who they are, we don't know if they can kick our asses. That's bad.
Well, everyone can kick your ass right now.
We already have like a faction status sheet that says like porters plus something. Everybody like question mark people that tried to kill us. IDK -2 probably.
Yeah.
The cops probably -2 also. We murdered some of them. And then there's and then Hunger's crew probably +1.
I'd be down with taking something from the cops.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, not all of these are not all of these are narratively things that you would believably have taken from the Blue Coats, but still. I like the idea of giving you as many opportunities as possible to pull one over on the cops, so yes.
So I think at this point, my vote is pretty solidly on those underground passageways.
Mm-hmm.
I too will vote for that. Because then you can do more lurk stuff.
Yeah.
Remember, as GM, you can still control the underground pathways to the extent of providing us that they don't go to the place we're trying to get to, or like you can still throw complications in that don't make our lives too easy.
Oh yeah.
I expect at least one thrilling mine cave-in.
Yeah, in a city like Duskwall, the chance that those underground pathways are 100% easy to use 100% of the time approaches zero.
In fact,
Oh,
the
yeah.
odds are they are 100% haunted. So
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I
they're-
bet they're haunted
They're
as
definitely
shit.
haunted.
that's who we have to get them from. We literally have to clear out all the ghosts first.
Okay, so we commission the one-shot crew to fight all
Yes.
the ghosts.
Next time.
Yeah.
Next time.
An entire side story. We take a break in the middle of June, and the next 4 episodes are filler about all of your one-shot characters just getting rid of ghosts.
I'll put on a fake mustache so everyone knows. I'm not playing Crossroads. I'm playing Tamlin today. Hello, I have a mustache.
Uh-huh. So if I'm not mistaken, Valerie's vote makes it 3 votes for underground passageways. Just to be sure, even though even though there's already a consensus. Mike, are you also in agreement?
Yeah, I'm game. I had other ideas that are Munchkin-y in the everyone can beat us up, so maybe we should be less easy to beat up. But I like this underground pathways thing, and it feels like it's immediately relevant for whatever next types of things we're going to be doing.
Okay.
Mike, can you put the other upgrades you were thinking about into the notes section of the crew sheet so we can give them priority next time?
I will do that thing.
Cool. So, just to be sure then, is there anything else, character-wise, crew-wise, that y'all would like to, clarify or otherwise discuss before we get into the action?
Does somebody need to sing the secret tunnel song before we proceed? Is that
Lord.
I would like a chance for Ring to do obligation later in this night. Because I rolled very poorly last time and still have 6 stress. But that's a broader scale framing thing.
Okay, cool. Okay, so as previously mentioned, one of the last things that happened the last session would have been you all privately meeting upstairs while Crossroads is charging to discuss what your next moves might be, only to discover that you were being overheard while you were discussing Aldo Booker and whatever moves you might be able to make or might attempt to make against him. At that point, Crossroads had already accidentally entered a hull that might have been in one of Aldo's homes. Discovered that someone else's spirit was already in that hull and was very insistent about how weird and trespassy this was. And then you discovered that a porter was eavesdropping on you the entire time. And when you went to ask them why that was, they seemed not only to know Aldo Booker very well in some capacity, but seemed somewhat worried or confused by the fact that he may be potentially up to something, which you have all now confronted this porter downstairs to ask essentially, well, what is it that you mean? At which point, they gather 2 more porters to come back to meet you at like one of the other spare rooms on the ground floor of this building, separate from where everybody is presently eating and like trading gifts and like doing other things. So it's just the four of you and these three children who seem very impatient, very restless in this moment. Um, all of whom are looking at Ring with a mixture of not so much fear, but a fear of judgment, a fear of being told that they're in trouble, and mild confusion at like, why is this the thing that Ring is asking us about in this moment? But they just like stand there awkwardly waiting for someone to say something.
All right, Moss, you said that you had something you probably wanted to tell us about Brightstone.
Moss sighs, looks down, and then they like straighten up as if like they're trying to muster the courage to say a thing, and they look up at you, Ring, and they say, "So some of us work in Brightstone often, yeah. Sometimes Dern tells us not to. Sometimes he needs someone to be available at the last minute, and it's Brightstone, right? So we stick around sometimes, see if we can pick some pockets, find some good food, things like that. And sometimes we'd end up just taking a side job for this Booker guy. Someone standing like to the left of Moss jabs them in the side with their elbow. And
Hold on.
and then Moss just kind of falls quiet again.
Hey. You take side jobs. If that doesn't get in the way of doing your work for us, probably not a problem. Dern is the one to run all of those by. But if you've done business with Booker and Moss thinks there's something we should know, we'd really appreciate it. I'm not going to rat you out to Dern if something you've done hasn't hurt any of your fellows, hasn't hurt innocents. We do what we need to get by. But to get by right now, I could really use your help if there's something that Moss thinks we should know. Because there are people who are trying to do a lot of things to hurt these friends of mine. And if they all get hurt, I probably won't be around to help you all.
All three of them just kind of meekly nod. There is a very short, like, bright-faced girl all the way on the other end of the line of the three of them. What is that girl's name?
Could be Yara.
Cool. Yara is like twiddling her thumbs while this is happening, and then like very softly says, "We didn't think we were hurting anybody or doing anything wrong. It's just Booker pays a lot of money. Like, I mean, like he gives us stacks, Mr. Ring, like bags of coin as big as Dern's head. And that's money we can save to make sure that if somebody gets hurt or if we don't have food in the house, so we thought that we would do it and we'd keep it. And I mean, it's been so much money, we've actually haven't had a need to use it in a while, so we did the things, and we weren't hurting anybody, we just sending some messages around. Like, he'd ask us every once in a while to put a sign in the antique shop by the docks. Ash, how awake is Ash in this moment? Is Ash awake?
Ash is awake but drowsy, and she doesn't process the antique thing at first. She she tries to sit up. She gets an elbow under her at least, and she just looks at the kids and she goes, "Someday, I hope you are going to understand that when people pay you above minimum wage for a job, they are not only buying your labor, they're trying to buy your loyalty." And also, Ash is slurring her words a teeny bit because honestly, when one has so little blood, replacing that blood with a couple cups of wine wasn't the best idea in the world. She's feeling significantly less pain though.
Oh yeah. You are magically in and out of consciousness. I'm gonna ask you to do a thing for me in a little bit, but not yet. Yara just kind of like meekly nods again and says, "Well, we know that. Dern taught us better than that, but it was money though. So he'd ask us to like send things or get things, and we'd do it if we were able, if we didn't have other pressing work to do. And that was that."
And Ash sits up a little and waves at the kid and goes, "Come here, come here."
Yara just kind of like steps forward just a little bit.
She pats the edge of the bed. "Come sit down."
Yara sits down very slowly.
Ash levers herself up as far as she can, which is not very far given her injury, to try and make better eye contact with the kid. And she goes, "I just want to make sure. Has he ever asked you for anything that made you feel uncomfortable? Has he ever asked you to take a message to anybody that you didn't feel safe around?"
Yara just starts like vigorously shaking her head. And Moss in that moment speaks up behind her. He's always asked us if we were willing to do a job even. He's never made us do anything he didn't think we should have to do or didn't think that we could do. And he always let us say no if we wanted to.
Have you said no before?
It's essentially free money. We never thought we were hurting anybody. Did we hurt anybody?
We're not worried about that right now. I'm worried about you. And Ash is still slurring, but she says, "Have you ever felt like it would be a problem if you said no? Even, I'm not saying necessarily that you were worried he'd hit you or anything. I'm saying, were you ever worried that if you said no, the money would stop? Did you think that saying no meant that he might not ask again?" Because due to the kind of business she runs, Ash is very familiar with the specific psychological pressure of, if I don't say yes and keep saying yes, this income stream is going to dry the hell up. And she understands how susceptible these kids would be to it.
Yara like pauses for a moment and goes, "Well, yeah, but I mean that's the nature of the work, right? We never did anything for Mr. Booker because we thought we would never have money again. Like, we work well enough to not depend on that. Like, it wasn't about that. It was about the money is free and we were just trying to help the whole family, right? Like, you taught us how to do that, Mr. Ring."
It's not free. You're still doing work. And like Ash said, if you're getting overpaid and you know you're getting overpaid, the person who's overpaying you probably knows that, and they're okay with it for a reason. Sometimes it's hard to know what that reason is, but we know from living in this city that not everybody has good intentions. Get paid when you can, but be careful. And I'll make sure to talk to Dern, and that Dern won't be angry. But I would really like for you to let him know when you do jobs for Aldo so that he can keep track, and that Dern and I can make sure that Aldo isn't setting you up for problems. Because you know how it can be. You do a favor here and there, you do a favor often enough, and in reality, you're part of somebody else's crew.
And Ash is like visibly running out of energy, but she says, we think that the people who shot me, and she just gestures vaguely downward at her injury, were probably paid by Mr. Booker. So we just want to make sure that you feel safe saying no, so that if he ever asks you for something like this, you don't feel like you have to do it, okay?
Oh, okay. Is it possible that we got you in trouble? Was that our fault?
No, it is almost definitely not your fault. Trust me, I am very, very capable of making people angry on my own. And Ash cannot prop herself up on her elbows anymore. She just has to lay back down.
Crossroads helps.
Ash and Crossroads, I'd like you both to give me a tune rolls. Your position is...
If I blow up Ash, I'm gonna be so angry.
No. I highly doubt that's gonna happen.
He asked
I
me for
lead out.
a tune roll the second I take a sip of water. That almost came out my nose.
So your position is risky.
Okay.
And our effect?
Your effect is great. Yes.
What?
No bonus dice?
I don't like this pause that's happening.
No bonus dice for Crossroads. Ash, how conscious are you in this individual moment?
Not super conscious.
1 bonus die.
Okay.
Oh boy.
And as a reminder to the audience, Ash has no dots in a tune. And that's a 4.
Oh
Okay.
god, I'm afraid. That's a 6, a 4, and a 3. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine.
That doesn't sound fine. You don't repeat "this is fine" like 5 times to make us feel better.
Ash, just before you just like essentially drift off into sleep, you just have like that, like the sudden realization hits you. Oh wait, one of the at least three secret messages that have come to my shop since I started hanging out with these weirdos might have been from one of these kids in particular. Like it just dawns on you in this individual moment, and when it dawns on you, you actually like get the briefest vision, not like a hallucination or you just like imagining what the scene would have looked like. You can tell very palpably that this is a vision of Moss throwing the brick through your window that said that you still had, that reminded you that you still had to fulfill that one obligation at that point in time. The brick that hurt your border, that was Moss. But you have that vision just before passing out.
Let's just take that one to our graves, because that would break that child's heart.
Crossroads, however,
However, I don't like that word. What?
It's
No.
fine. Nothing is nothing. I assure you, you have not fried anyone.
That's good. That's good.
Um, you like essentially in the act of attempting to catch Ash before they just like collapse into bed. Um, you get a similarly brief vision, but just a little bit longer. You
Okay.
see, um, what you see is essentially this very like grainy, noisy vision of um a street somewhere in Duskfall. You assume that it's one of the wealthier places, like maybe this is Brightstone, maybe this is Night Market, because the streets are incredibly clean. These buildings look really expensive and really posh. Um, and you are standing next to, like in this vision, to your right, you're standing next to Yara.
Am I taller than Yara?
Oh yeah, you are in a you are in a how do I explain this? The camera angle that you are looking at implies that you are in a body that is not your uh typical Crossroads Hell frame.
Okay.
But is not the but you're not looking up from the angle of a child. You are from
Okay.
an adult vantage point. Um, but but you also notice, like in the moment that you're trying to notice, you notice that you're very disembodied. You are literally just a camera angle in this vision at this moment. And standing in front of Yara is a very well dressed individual, like red velvet jacket, red velvet trousers, um, a cravat that is like blue silk and has like um, Leviathan patterns on it.
Okay.
On his left hand side stands what you immediately identify as the gold and silver hull that you were in the body of just earlier that evening.
No.
It is like now that you are like getting a good like external view of it, it's its head is like somewhat cylindrical. It it has like human facial features, but it seems like it's protruding out of the shape of a very small steel drum. Um, its arms look very huge. Its hands look very huge. It is maybe like a good 6.5 feet, maybe 7 feet tall. You can like hear the gears turning in it. You can hear the steam jetting out of some of its flaps. And it is looking very intensely at Yara. Um, Aldo pulls out like a small like black velvet pouch from one of his pockets and like tosses it in the air against his hand. And you don't hear anything in this vision, but you can tell that there are gold pieces in this bag. And then he tosses it to Yara. Yara opens it, looks at it, is very shocked by whatever she sees, closes it back, turns back to Booker, who says something but you cannot hear it. And Yara nods, puts the pouch away, and leaves. And even though you can't hear anything, you get this very vague impression when you see this that this is perhaps the very first time that they met each other. And you can like sense from Yara this sense of absolute trepidation. She has learned at this point in this work You can't just trust any adult. Adults are actually not worth shit nine tenths of the time. Um, but this is the most money that she's ever seen in a one time job that she hasn't gotten immediately from Dern. So she takes it and she leaves, but you have no idea what it is she does. And then you come back out and you are back in the room that you were presently in.
When Crossroads comes back, everybody sees Crossroads just kind of reach out of nowhere and like start strangling the air because it was trying to attack the nice hull that it saw in the vision. But then it comes back and its hands are just out in front of it, and then it feels very silly, and it puts its hands back down.
The sight of you doing that makes Yara like bolt upright and like run back to the other two kids. Like, at least Yara is deathly afraid of you at the moment because you just tried to strangle something that was right next to her head.
Crossroads, are you all right? Are you here?
I saw the nasty thing.
Which nasty thing?
The nasty thing I was inside earlier that made me scream.
Okay.
Yara turns to Ring and goes, "Did I do something wrong?"
No, Crossroads sometimes sees in the whisper way. You know how people have special dreams, or the people that do bargains with spirits and things.
Mm-hmm.
So Crossroads is very new in the world.
I'm 2 weeks old.
Me? Did they see
I
something
saw
about me?
I saw the nasty thing looked at you.
I don't understand.
A hull with, what was it, bronze and silver, gold and
silver.
Gold and
that's Booker's hull, I think.
it has a face.
I know its name. Moss. You remember its name, right? And like she turns to the other two and they're like, "Yeah, he's called it by its name in front of us before." I think its name is like Rush. Rush is its name. It gave me a very funny feeling the last time I saw it, Mr. Ring. It looks very expensive, but it keeps looking at us like we've done something wrong, and I don't like that.
It's a nasty thing. I don't like it.
Moss, I think at this point the only other thing that would be important that will help us be safe is if you can try to remember places where you were asked to deliver things to Aldo. And then kind of Ringwood, if Moss is kind of up for it, and if the others are, to just kind of walk through delivery errands and try to specify points for a likely location. Like, oh, okay, did you take things to the same place more than once? Did Aldo or someone who you've seen work for Aldo receive the thing for you at a place? And try to like zoom in on specifics that we might be able to cross-reference with information we have about Booker's holdings.
Mm-hmm. So these three porters now kind of like huddle together, as if trying to like physically create a hive mind in this moment. And they lean in and they're like essentially comparing jobs that they've done for each other, for Aldo when the other wasn't around. And um, the consensus essentially is. In fact, I'm actually going to perform that because it would be kind of dull just to describe that. So um, Yara and Moss and the third child, who I will also ask you to name because you're their parent after all. I think you're muted.
You are muted.
I'm trying to find the big names list in the Core Blades book so that I can come up with some more.
Aha!
Unless other folks have names in mind.
Gutsy.
I mean, that's a good urchin name.
There's the tried and true standby of little Jerry.
Or
Wow.
let's see,
Odds.
Lizette, Timoth, Kesserin, or Kess, Comer.
I'll take Cass. Right, so Cass, Yara, and Moss are like just huddled together, and essentially what you see is this mildly comic performance of them just listing jobs that they did last in order of each other. So they're like, this time they asked me to throw a brick through the antique space. And there's this one time they asked me to send this letter to this person in night market, and then there was this other time that they wanted me to like pick up a box in Dunslow and move it to another space in Dunslow, and that's when the three of them just kind of come to a consensus that, well, whenever we were doing a job for Mr. Booker, but we weren't meeting Mr. Booker, we always met in Dunslow. But whenever we met Mr. Booker, we were always in Brightstone. Um, I think when we go to Dunslow, it's always somewhere in the vicinity of where is this place? Aha. Um, it's always just north of the night soil fields, like just outside the ghetto, essentially, where no one can see us. It's always late in the night too, and we always meet either the big scary hull or we meet like a group of other guys we'd never met before, and they pay us just the same. It's always Mr. Booker's payment pouch, but like whenever we do jobs in that area, we never meet him directly.
That's good to know. I'm afraid that if things escalate with how we're having to deal with Mr. Booker, it may become dangerous for you to do errands for him. But snows are starting. There's going to be plenty of work to do around here. I bet Dern could use your help in going over inventory. But this has helped us a lot. And if we can do what we need to keep this group safe from Aldo, then it'll be safer for you to do messages for Aldo if you need to. But I don't know that I'm confident that he won't at some point start asking you to do things that will hurt people. I think it's pretty likely that he will.
Okay, I get it. It's very weird, you know? Like we thought we were just like, I mean, a few times we were just like sending letters to people, and a few other times we were just bringing like expensive shiny stuff back for him. That was all.
Yeah, but you know that in the porters, where 100 individuals, 3 people do a little work here, 2 people do a little work there, a couple of people keep track of things here. And when you look at it all together, it's like an anthill, and we make amazing things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to know that you're a part of someone else's anthill if all you can see is the tunnel that you're in. So it's worth thinking about, what happens to this thing after I drop it off? Why does somebody want a brick thrown through a window? What could happen if someone doesn't see the broken glass and steps on it and hurts their foot? To be safe in this city, we have to be able to see not just what we're asked to do, but how that impacts people around us. We try to look out for one another. We try to look out for our neighbors. But there are people who will prey on that trust, who will prey on desperation. And then all of a sudden, you're part of somebody else's army. And I don't want that, because that gets you hurt.
I understand, Mr. Ring.
You've done good work tonight. I think there's probably still some of those quarter biscuits over on the other table.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I guess before we forget, Yara, you should mention the thing that you saw. And Yara's eyes kind of open, kind of wide. And they pause she pauses for a minute, and she says, "Right, one of you is friends with, that nice lady who passed away. Miss Casper, right?"
Crossroads had, like, after seeing the vision and then telling Yara about the nasty thing, had gone to hunker in the corner and sulk with its face heading towards the corner. But then at the mention of Runa, pops up and its head spins around, but its body remains sulking in the corner.
Yara kind of jumps, but like straightens up right away and goes, "So there was this one time, like a long time ago, like months and months and months. But there was this one time I went to Dunslow with one of the shinies, right? It was like in this like big heavy crate, and I needed to borrow a wheelbarrow just to bring it there and stuff. But I brought it, and I got my gold pieces just like I was supposed to. But when I got there, I thought I saw Miss Casper hiding behind a building and watching us. But when I went to check, she was gone. Like I know for a fact it was her. I saw her face plain as day when she was hiding. But then I went to look for her and she was gone. And I don't know why. I mean, the thing in the box was just like a bell or something, like an antique thingy. One of those things that will fetch a lot of money if you sell it in a corner somewhere. But it wasn't like anything noteworthy to me, and I never heard anybody ask about it since. It wasn't like one of those really expensive things that like a fence will ask one of us if we've seen it around or anything like that. Nobody even knew what it was. But we got paid real big for it, Mr. Ring, and I feel like, I don't know. It felt weird, and I never told anybody about it because, I mean, I got paid and nobody got hurt. But now that you're asking, I guess I just wanted to know if maybe, did we do something wrong, Mr. Ring?
I don't know, because I can't see the whole anthill. But it's good to know what you saw. And if you're worried about doing bad things without knowing, that's something to keep in mind when you get offers. And so maybe you decide that it's not worth hanging around where Aldo might want to hire you. Maybe you decide that there's other side jobs you can do. But I'm not going to say that you can't, because I understand why you did. Maybe Dern will say that. Dern is, more in charge of dispatching. But I'll make sure that Dern knows what we talked about, and know that Dern and I have your best. We want you to be safe. We want you to be able to grow up and have a life that's worth living. It's hard to be totally free of danger in this city, but we'll do what we can. And you've made it easier for us to be safe. And that's good, and for that I'm grateful. So in that, you've done well, and you've helped.
Okay, Mr. Ring. And they just kind of like freeze for a moment. It was like, what are we supposed to say in this moment?
And I think this is where Ring, being a spider, has the ability to conjure contextually appropriate gifts, and pulls out like a good charcoal pen for one of them, a notepad for another, and basically a kid's spyglass, which is just probably like a 3-inch long tin cylinder with a couple of cheap lenses that will magnify to like 2 or 3x, but not very much more, and distributes those to the kids. It says, "Happy Porter's Day. Those cookies aren't going to eat themselves."
And they all just like beam at you. Cass kind of like waves the notebook, because that's the one that they pick out of the three, and goes, with these, maybe we can like take better notes of the things that kind of that happens on the block, and we can let you know when weird things happen then. And then they just kind of skip away, like shouting their thank yous at you, and they disappear back into the dining section of the building. So yeah.
If that motherfucker gets them in trouble, I swear to God, I will burn this whole city down.
I got like 12 bullets with his name on it at this point.
Jesus, 12.
That's not all her bullets. I mean,
Only 12?
I was gonna say only 12 is probably.
They're big ones.
Well, I figured it'll take probably several bullets to down the
nasty
hull,
thing.
the nega hull. So yeah, we should probably recap / review that information as a quartet when enough time has passed and it's reasonable to wake Ash up again.
Crossos has gone back to sulking.
Okay. Before I determine that time has passed, I kind of want Ash to give me another tune roll.
Oh boy.
Position risky.
I am going to have to get dots in this at some point.
Effect great.
Crossroads can help train you.
2 bonus dice.
Risky. Effect great. 2 bonus dice. We have a 6 and a 1.
You sleep restfully for maybe an hour and a half. You don't dream. You're just like perfectly unconscious.
Is that because of the 6 or because of the 1?
That's because of the 1. And then this sensation kind of washes over you, essentially. It doesn't feel like waking up. It feels like your entire consciousness is being reassembled in this place. And like what that visually seems like to you is, um, like slowly that perfect pitch black of sleeping without dreams starts to reveal itself from the very center and then expanding outward. And you are in that, um, like, infinite, misty horizon again, where you first saw the person who Crossroads used to be. And it's just you, and just this, like, glassy floor, infinitely in every direction. And then you hear a voice behind you clear its throat. Do you turn to meet the voice?
Yes, Ash is going to turn around. Ash is probably going to regret turning around.
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. Right, so I'm going to allow you to qualify some background for this because you're so very good at Severosi law. What is the Severosi language name for the imperishable wing?
Ooh, give me a second. Fushi Hua, I think.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you how to spell that at some point in the future, but not immediately. So in, I mean, like folklore exists everywhere else in the world, there is the way stories are written for adults and the way that stories are written for children. But in the wealth of Severosi lore about the imperishable wing, they kind of manifest themselves almost as a kind of cross between the Grim Reaper and Anansi the Spider. They're present whenever a soul is about to pass on. They're present whenever, like, the elderly or young children have questions about death or are witnessing death for the first time. But they're also very fond of interjecting themselves in the personal stories of others whenever some grand change is about to take place in their life, whether it's because they're about to trigger that change or because they came to witness it. In some of those stories, they take the kind of spiritual imagination of that personification, which is the image of the beak, this, like, very jagged edged shawl around their body, that seems to be made of very strong spider webs. Sometimes they have very long arms with very long fingers, and very long legs that seem to have multiple knees, etc. But sometimes they just take the form of a human because, being a trickster, obviously they're very adept at just sometimes impersonating humans. Um, the person that you see when you turn around is wearing the shawl that they would wear in their typically understood visage, but is presently almost annoyingly handsome. Um, Blonde hair, hazel eyes, um, like soft manicured fingers, um, the minute, like the very moment that you turn around, they put a hand on your shoulder and say, "You come here very often, don't you?"
Not on purpose.
You should do something about that, or this place just might end up keeping you. Do you know who I am?
Is Ash capable of feeling her injury in this space?
It's weird. In this space, you appear physically uninjured. You are aware of where you have been shot, but you can't see it and you can't feel pain. You can just feel like that it's there. It feels less like you. It feels less like an arrow wound and more like an extra layer of clothing just in this one part of your body.
Then that allows her enough to make some flappy hand gestures that indicate you can't possibly expect me to say the words.
Why are you you are from Severus, yes? You know what happens when you avoid saying things.
You are the imperishable wing.
That's what the other islands call me in their other words. What is my name?
You are Fushi Fal Na Mortal Fal. You are the one who's will bring change.
I'm glad to know that you know who I am. Often I meet some of our siblings here and they can't tell. Maybe I shouldn't be so pretty. And they like are about to like dispel their face and you can see like the beginning of a very long black beak emerge from their head and it's very disturbing. Do you want them to stop or not?
No, actually, the beak is making Ash feel a little more comfortable.
Okay, so they dispel their entire visage and it's almost like you are in the presence of a large humanoid crow.
And Ash actually smiles a little and she says, I have a friend who looks like you. Big friend. Gigadis friend.
I know. They're very curious. I think your friend Crossroads is in for an interesting journey, much like their namesake. But we're not here to talk about anybody other than you for a moment. Do you know what happens when people see me?
Problems.
Well, not always, and they just pout for a moment.
Well, and Ash is waving her hands again because she's not sure what language is happening in the dream world. She only knows that she's understanding it. So now she is cycling through both Akarosi and Severosi to get to the word she means, which is like Olvical, she says, which is sometimes used for problems and sometimes used to indicate questions.
And now, they nod. A beak cannot grin, but you can tell in that moment that they're very pleased with themselves all of a sudden. And they go, "Do you have any?"
To be alive is to have lots and lots of ovicle, all the time.
You know, it's so strange. When you left home, when you skipped the water to get to this place, I thought you had forgotten all about me. And they, like, tap your forehead. And you get the very briefest vision of a memory of when you were very, very, very young. The very first time you were attempting to ride a horse. Not knowing because you had decided you were just going to get on this horse because everybody else is apparently doing the horse thing. I'm going to do the horse thing too. But because you were unsupervised at that moment, you did not know that this bronco was unbroken. And it threw you so hard, your skull nearly split open. You had, before this moment, totally forgot that any of this had ever happened. This is like the first time in years you're remembering this scene. And then you come back into this space, and they go, "We used to be such close friends, and then you started
And Ash
selling
looks
things."
up at them and says, "Your icon in my window. Never sold that. Of course I didn't forget."
I was wondering. You and your friends are in for a lot of change. Do you know that?
Gesturing furiously at where her wound would be. We had some inklings.
Okay. Understood. I'm just so worried about you. You shouldn't be here. Even your friend shouldn't be here. The reason why your friend is so regularly here is because some very terrible person decided to be loose with, and they use the word for key in Severosi, but they use it in a way that makes you understand that they're referring to a relic, and that's how you know that they're referring to Crossroads only being in the body that they're in because of a relic. And they kind of pause for a moment and like look off into the distance, and they say, "The work that you're doing is important. Keeping all of the doors closed is important. You shouldn't have to close it from the other side. I trust that we will ensure that does not happen."
We are trying.
Perhaps what you need in order for that to work best is a little bit of mischief. And they put out their hands in front of you.
Ash reaches out and puts her hands into the imperishable wing's hands.
The moment that your hands touch, your hands feel very, very, very warm. You weren't experiencing any sensation of temperature before, but now you are. And like there is this brief moment when you look down at your hands and then back up at them. The beak is gone and the pretty face is back again. And they're grinning at you. And they say, I just want to ask something first. All those times that you were by your neighbors and you saw me and you started sighing and rolling your eyes, that was because you really missed me, wasn't it?
I missed you. And if people knew that I knew you as much as I do, I don't think I could be near people. And she picks up her hands because she has noticed how warm her hands are now. And she asks, is this going to be Oiranam? Because my parents will probably be very upset if there is a second priest in the family. That is inconvenient.
Look at your hands. And you see on your left palm is a perfect kind of 1-inch square, which is like a very soft gradient from blue to purple, and it's like a tattoo right against your palm. And on the right palm is another tattoo, but it is a very, very, very small, like a half-inch tattoo of a crow. And like the tail feather of the crow leads into very fine text in Severosi that is the word for problems or questions.
And Ash, looking at that, says, may your problems be other people's problems. May your questions be other people's questions. Because if we must wonder, let us wonder together.
I'm so glad I chose you. So many other people don't pause as often as you do to wonder. Everybody likes being afraid, but you're not afraid to get on a horse that's unbroken. And your hands start getting even warmer and warmer, and then they just kind of gently kind of pat you on the head and say, you should probably visit that friend who wanted to play games with you. I'm sure it's been a while since you've done that. And your hands keep getting warmer and warmer until they're almost insufferably hot now. And then you immediately find yourself waking up out of bed. You're still in a lot of pain. You look at your hands, and those two tattoos are there.
And Ash swears under her breath and goes, going to need gloves now.
Crossroads is now sulking next to you and goes, I can get some.
I'm just gonna ask
you, tall
idly.
friend.
I'm just going to ask idly. Crossroads, do you even notice anything on Ash's hands?
Wow.
You
I
should.
guess I didn't see them actually form because I don't know. Ash, do you sleep with your hands under blankie?
Ash full burritos, but in
Okay.
order to see that the tattoos were there, she had to slightly unburrito.
I think you should give me. In fact, yes.
Uh-oh.
Crossroads, give me a. What would that be? Study or survey? I think that
We
would
could
be study.
okay, study. My position.
Your position is. Your position is controlled,
Mm-hmm.
and your effect is limited.
Limited. No bonus dice, because I guess this is a passing action, and that is a 4.
Mm. The moment that you realize that you're getting something for Ash's hands, like you try to glance to see did something happen to Ash's hands? Did Ash's hands get cut or something like that? We don't make anything out immediately at all.
Mm-hmm. But Crossroads says, I can get you gloves.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And as you jolt out of bed, I'm gonna say that Melvir kind of awkwardly re-enters the room and goes, "Was that pain or a dream? 'Cause one is not good."
And Ash says, I'm not sure I know anymore. How do you tell?
So, if you can't tell, that's usually the result of delirium, and maybe you need to keep sleeping? Or I should get some medication for you? Are you sure you're okay? And Melvir actually leans into you and goes, "I will not tell any of your friends if you tell me that you actually are in grave danger traveling with these folks and would like to get a place to rest and just heal up. I will do whatever is necessary to because you I don't think you're a good friend. I think you're in a lot of trouble."
I'm right here, says Crossroads.
Melvie rolls his eyes.
That's not nice.
Almost killing people's pets is not nice. In fact, I'm going to direct this question to you as well. Hull friend Crossroads. It's been how many days now since the last time I saw you? And you're still getting in grave danger on a regular basis. Are you all okay? Are you in trouble? Do we need to call for help? Do you need... I'm not good at this kind of thing, obviously, but if there's a way that you can not be at death's door on a regular basis, I'd like to ensure it.
Well, I already died. So, I guess that means I am at death's door. So, I will stop my friends from going through it. Because I'm there already. I think that's how it works.
Melvir makes to open his mouth and then closes it. Are you sure? 'Cause you're, no offense, not doing a very good job. And he points at Ash.
Yes. But that's what practice is for.
That's what leaving the city is for, and finding a cool place to settle down and not do whatever it is you're all doing right now. What are you all doing right now?
Ash reaches
I'm-
out and pats Crossroads' arm and says, I think you did a good job.
Crossroads doesn't-
Melvir rolls his eyes again, and then leans in close to you and literally points at the wound where an arrow had just exited your body.
Melvir, don't worry. I am going to carry extra blood from now on inside my chest. So if my friends get shot, then I can put the blood inside them.
That's noble. It's also not how blood works.
I put a bag of wine in my chest. That will be the blood. You said so yourself. You lost a lot of blood. Drink some wine.
That was mostly because I wanted it to chill out and stop moving so the wound would heal in the first place. You need
That
actually
sounds
to
good.
be in a more like controlled environment in order to be taken. I can see why you're all Callan's friends. This is unconstructive.
No, I think putting blood in someone is very constructive because it's
And-
constructing their body.
Ash
Melvir
raises her
has
hand and says, I would like a little more of the blood-making wine, please.
Would you
Melvir
like
has a
it from my
moment.
chest?
Melvir has a moment while this crosstalk is taking place when he like literally just stares off into the middle distance and like pauses for a moment and just like lets them talk over him, and then he goes, in fact, I'm going to forget if I ever asked if you were in pain and just leave the room now. And he just walks away. Melvir's having a hard time. I want a mini season just Melvir. I'm just saying. Melvir's having a hard time. So yes.
Crossroads gets Ash some wine and then says that it thinks Melvir is a very confused doctor and maybe not very good at doctoring.
And Ash is still extremely hazy. And she is also thinking about the conversation she has just had with the imperishable wing. So she says, it's because he wants there to be easy answers. Answers he can understand. It's okay. It's a normal problem.
Oh. Then I don't think he should be a doctor. I think he should be a philosopher.
No. He would be bad at that. Wanting answers isn't the same as getting them. Besides, if he is a philosopher, he cannot have more opportunities to do this very nice bandaging.
Oh. I will learn bandaging. And I will do it better than Melvir.
With the week we're having, I think we should both learn bandaging.
Okay.
Do you think Ring knows? It seems like the sort of thing Ring knows.
Yes, Ring is smart, and Ring was in a war. You have to bandage people in a war. That's what I think. I've never been in a war.
While that is happening, I would like to check on Ring. Ring, where are you and what are you doing?
I think Ring, so for dramatic irony, it would be funny if Ring was literally bandaging up one of the porters.
Fair enough. Kids did get in a fight earlier.
Yeah, or like somebody slipped and cut themselves, or somebody like burned themselves trying to pull a cookie off of a tray that wasn't quite ready, and so they burned their fingers or something.
I like that idea. one of your neighbors, like in their like early 50s, I'll say, decided to pick up an entire cookie tray and leave with it, but it was all still warm.
Yeah, and so Ring is trying to not. Ring is finding the right amount of embarrassment leverage to apply to this neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
given that there are kids around, and kids will maximize any opportunity to laugh at someone. But this neighbor is generally very helpful. And so instead, Ring is like bandaging up the hands and has started singing a like a Porter's Carol, but Porter's carols overlap very substantially with work songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because the Porters work at the dock so frequently, it sounds a lot like a sea shanty. And so they're saying like, heave ho the Dalio, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's go. Like while bandaging someone, that gets the kids to start singing, and then they're singing and like running around with each other instead of paying attention to somebody who got hurt.
Roll a command for me.
Sure, I have dots in that.
Purely out of nowhere.
Okay.
Position controlled. Effect great.
All right. Let's see how good Ring does at holiday distraction. So
Right,
6 and
yes.
5.
You weren't meaning for it to happen. But now every porter within earshot is singing along with you. And it is loud like bellowing throughout the entire building. People typically like because you've participated in like organizing Porter's Day feasts for years now. You know that the neighbors are not fond of the songs that are associated with Porter's Day because they don't do the work. So it's like not very like useful or interesting to them. But the kids that you work with love like this kind of thing, in part because they like annoying everybody else, but they also like the idea of work being collectively moved by the rhythm of a good song. So now it's like 20, 30, 40 kids and you just singing along. Even the kids who are not actively doing anything have stopped being idle so they can do something, just so that thing can be in time with the song.
Yeah, and I think we see maybe the camera or the kind of the mind's eye camera of the show fall like kind of loops through this kind of Porter's compound, and there's like people kind of almost like fire line passing dirty dishes, and somebody is like scrubbing in a sink, and like a couple of kids are passing dishes to one another and like buffing them with towels, and like the cleanup is starting to happen. And I think this is the portion of the night where the kids help cleaning up a little bit, and then the kids go to bed, and then the adults do the rest of the cleanup. But because the song is going, it's important to get the kids started on the idea that they contribute to the cleanup process. I think we see that, and there's like probably little parts of it that's like make work for smaller kids, where it's like, oh, okay, fold these towels, or like do something that then somebody else is going to have to redo, getting the younger ones used to the idea of, kind of using fine motor manipulation, or the idea that we put things away.
Mm-hmm. So what I will say then is this like continues for like several minutes in the camera shot of this scene. We are only going to hear this one song, but we are like swiftly kind of montaging through the rest of the evening as porters start cleaning dishes, and putting leftover food away, both in like small bowls for neighbors to take away with them, or in like large trays and pots so they can store them back in their ice boxes for later. Um, People are putting away furniture, starting to sweep the dining area, starting to shovel the pathway from all of the exits all the way back out into the main streets, all to the rhythm of the song. And as evening starts fading into night, which is indistinguishable in a duskfall where there is no sun, but happens anyway, as more grey clouds start to drift in with more snow. There's a moment, the briefest of moments, near the end of that scene, where Yara, with the charcoal set that you had just given her earlier, starts sketching on a stray piece of paper somewhere in like an old notebook that she already had. Starts drawing two objects. One is a very small, seemingly very crystalline bell, that for a handle has the shape of a woman in a dress. And the other is the very ornate handle of a sword, where several times throughout the hilt and several times along the handle are what looks like obsidian or some other dark stone. And while that's happening, Moss, who is like eagerly singing along, stops what he's doing very briefly with like two wooden chairs in his hands, like trying to put them away. He puts them down suddenly, and then leans over Yara's shoulder and goes, "Do you think we should have told them specifically about those things?" And Yara is like, "I don't think it matters what Mr. Booker was doing, but I do feel we need to keep an eye on these things at some point later. I think Mr. Ring is in a completely different kind of trouble, so it probably won't matter, but now that we know what trouble we kind of caused, we should try to fix it whenever we can." And she closes that notebook. Moss kind of nods meagerly, and then gestures to the dining room area where all of the tables and chairs are already being put away and says, "But that's for another day. Right now, it's still Porter's Day." And Yara nods, takes one of the chairs from him, and they kind of skip up the stairs to the room where the generator would have been, singing along with you the entire time. And that's where we're going to close that scene. And that's where we're going to close this session, in fact, of the case of the Cindered Seal. When next we meet, it's going to be the next morning. Maybe it will still be snowing, maybe not. I will also note very idly that I think, in terms of narrative, the understandable way to explain how you've gotten your underground tunnels is that Dern stole it from somebody else for you. That it used to be a connection of pathways that belonged to a rival gang that was incomplete, and in the process of essentially running those gangs out of town, Dern not only took control of those, but like widened their reach as far as possible, and has just idly noted to you that that is now available to you precisely because of the weather conditions. I will also note that you would know as a result that the only places that the tunnels can't go are anywhere beyond the docks that is interrupted by water. So yeah, things have happened. How do you feel about the things?
Should I do my cleanup indulge vice roll tonight?
All right, yes, please do. That would be ideal.
Okay. I still have 6 stress, and I'm hoping to have much less than 6 stress. And that's a 4 and a 5, so I will take away 5 stress and have 1 left.
Mm-hmm.
That was much more effective.
Yes.
But yeah, I like that idea about the passageways.
Nice, cool. How do you all feel about the information that you've learned so far?
Stress.
I'm very worried about those little kids.
Yeah.
I am so
Skelly
worried
is-
about those kids. We need to find Booker and just burn him down.
From this point onward, I, as the GM, endeavor to ensure that nothing happens to these kids. But yes, when next we meet, it will be the morning of the next day where you will get your opportunity to plan whatever mischief that you have in mind for Aldo Booker. I will also ask Ash very idly to note, just put somewhere in your character sheet, what do my hands do, ? And we will get to that at some point in the future.
I was wondering about that.
Oh no. I'm going to have to put dots in a tune at this rate.
I wouldn't be against the idea.
Crossroads will help. You literally have a living tuning fork as a friend. Crossroads will help. Don't worry.
I mean, what we've discovered this evening is that Ash has a lot of friends, including but not limited to actual gods. So, how do you feel about that interaction?
I am excited to see what new problems this can create.
Ah, you mean what new questions this can ask?
Yes!
So yes, this was fun, and I'm looking forward to a next session, which in fact, if I'm not mistaken, based on conversations we have previously, will be next week Sunday. Yes.
Yes, a possible miracle of rapid play that we may not be able to replicate.
Yes.
A double feature month.
Yeah, very hopefully, if all goes well next week, our next next Sunday will be another session of the Case of the Cindered Seal, where we get to go right into Aldo Booker related shenanigans, which I'm very much looking forward to. But until that happens, I'll ask each of you very nicely to please let all the lovely people in chat know who you are, what you do, and where they can find more of you. Starting with Valerie.
I am Valerie Valdes. Thank you very much for being here today. You can find me on Twitter at Valerie Valdes. That is with an S for those listening and not watching. And I am also at valerievaldes.com.
Nice. Next, Iori.
Iori Kusano, Veishi, Clarion West 2017. Today and always, I played Of the Flame the Ash, our Lurk, who is apparently a little bit god-touched. Fiction in Apex and Frozen Wavelets, reviews in Strange Horizons. Find me on Twitter at Iori Kusano.
Next, Jeoi.
Hello, Gawain Lind, game and fiction writer. You can find me on Twitter at This Is My Design. Design is spelled capital D-A-S-E-I-N. It is a philosophy and Hannibal pun. Much fun, very wow. Today, as always, I played Crossroads, an ex-Whisper now Hull who has many, many opinions about friendship.
Nice. And Mike.
Hey everybody, Michael R. Underwood. You can find me on Twitter at Mike R. Underwood. You can support this show and the other things that we do at Speculate at patreon.com/speculate. There's a lot of behind the scenes features for the Rebel Crown show and cool bonus episodes with Brandon and me and or Greg talking about role-playing games in a variety of fashions. So that's all cool. You should check out if you are able to kind of throw us a few bucks a month. And I have Genre Knots in that indie bundle for Palestinian aid, which is up for about 4 more days. I've put the link into the chat again. And that is me. Thank you very much, Brandon, for a lovely session.
Cool. And as for me, I have been your GM this evening, Brandon O'Brien. I am one of the co-hosts of Speculate alongside Michael and Greg, and you can find more information about Speculate again at speculateSF.com. We would very much like it if you can support us financially on Patreon, because that allows us not only to pay our long-suffering editor Rudy Basso to make sure that our content can be available in podcast form, but also will potentially allow us to do even more cool things in the future, which we are all very much planning and plotting to do in the year 2021, so that would be very welcome. I am also one of the co-hosts of the Skiffy and Fanty Show, which you can find out more about at skiffyandfanty.com. And you can find out more about me individually at The Rising Tides on Twitter or at brandonobrien.space. Also, sometime very, very soon, you will see the cover of my poetry collection, Can You Sign My Tentacle? So you should probably follow me on Twitter, so when that happens, you don't miss it, because it's going to be really neat. So yeah, thank you so very much for playing with me. I can't wait to play with you again. I'm very excited about what's going to happen soon, because I'm kind of really excited to get into get into situations where we actually get to meet Aldo Booker and cause some trouble. But until then, I will ask everybody in chat, please give your love to all of these lovely people. And I will be back with them all shortly. Hold on. Let's disappear for a bit as I come over here to meet all of you lovely people in chat over here. Hi. Thank you for joining us for tonight's session of the Case of the Cindered Seal. I am very excited about what's going to happen next session. It just so happened that things aligned essentially in such a way that we could squeeze 2 games out of this month. So the update essentially for me for Sundays on this channel is, as it stands right now, next week Sunday will be another episode of The Case of the Cindered Seal, and then the Sunday after that will be June's session of Sound Clash the Clampdown. It will unfortunately be the only session for the month, but I'm very excited about what happens in that session as well. Obviously, there will be content for you all waiting on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, let's just check the calendar to make sure what happens on Monday, because I know that a couple of things have obviously switched around on this channel. Alright, yes, unfortunately there will be no content on Monday the 7th, but on the 8th, of course, Arv will be back with Fighting Fantasy. That's gonna be wild. Phantoms of Fear, Fighting Fantasy game book. So I'm very excited to see yet another game book stream, because those are always a lot of fun. And then, of course, Pen and Pixels will be later that evening on Tuesday. But until the next time that there will be content on this channel, I thank you so very much for being present and joining us for this evening's session. Thank you, of course, first and foremost to Arv and Alaron for giving me the opportunity to be on this channel and do these neat things. I'm very grateful to be able to do Speculate things on this channel, because the Case of the Cindered Seal is a lot of fun, and I'm really glad to share this wildness with you all. Thank you very much to Rock God and Triffity Mats for moderating this evening. As with all times that you've with the moderators on this channel, you all are, as Arv says, the best in the business, and I'm very grateful for you all keeping the chat as neat and tidy as possible, even though this is one of the most wonderful communities that I've ever been in, and not a lot of bad behavior takes place here. So, as for everyone who came to view this stream, thank you so very much to Adwin666, Cleaning the House, ECAG, Feet, Forceps, Game Trend Analytics, which doesn't sound fishy at all, Garlic Tofu, Jebediah Slims, Mapricot, Mrs. Dunsel, Miss Lenity, Prince Justin, St. Pomelo, Servers, Tontoms, The Kids Are Asleep, Turbo Tango, U Christensen, V and K, and Zenarex. Thank you so very much for passing through this evening. I'm very glad to be able to share yet another session of our Speculate co-stream, The Case of the Cindered Seal, with you. Look forward to more Blades in the Dark weirdness next week Sunday, and until then, I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we will see you all very, very soon. Have a good evening, everyone. So here are all of my encouragements for you all to make terrible decisions, as I am the GM.
Ash has a crossbow bolt in her side, 0 dots in skirmish, and 0 dots in wreck. And I'm so excited to see this get even worse. So that's one vote for escalation.
Skelly has 3 guns and all the ammo.
Crossroads has no guns, but Crossroads is a gun powered by ghosts.
Have we established that your guns are special to you? I feel like we're establishing that your guns are special to you.
Before this crew, they were my only friends.
You've known us for 5 days. You've known those guns a lot longer.
These are my babies.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Rowan was starting to do this, and then he realizes to harvest. This doesn't help. Like, don't do that.
This is not.
No.
This is
Like,
not
don't do this.
thing.
Yeah.
Doing this to an executioner?
Yeah, that's not what you
just
want.
like this, like.
We call that the go sign, you know? Like, yeah.
Oh man.
This theme's great. I will do a fortune roll. Notes. No thoughts. Head empty. 1! I rolled a 1!
Yep.